United States entered World War I, the pickets picked up their action and they began to directly attack Woodrow Wilson. And they began to be arrested. So they began to be carted off first to the DC jail, which wasn't pleasant, but then to the Occoquan workhouse, which was a notoriously bad prison where women were pushed down the stairs and physically threatened and force-fed, and it was all quite unpleasant. Sometimes he's not the perfect son-in-law. When the United States entered the war, the Carrie Chapman Catt immediately, overtly, dropped all suffrage activities and devoted her organization to the war effort. Women participated in unprecedented numbers in World War I. There were women nurses attached to the Army. There were dietitians also more loosely attached to the Army. There were naval auxiliaries. And it is going to be difficult after the war to say that women had not participated in the war effort. Woodrow Wilson is not happy about the Silent Sentinels. He's ambivalent at best about women getting the right to vote, but he wants a League of Nations. He wants a peace effort after the war. And women were extraordinarily active in the peace movement. Woodrow Wilson's motives are blurry at best, but he decides to come down on the side of women getting the right to vote, be it because of Carrie Chapman Catt's lobbying, or be it because of Alice Paul keeping the issue in the press. He decides to come down hard on this, and Carrie Chapman Catt again. Finally, the Anthony Amendment passed the House of Representatives with not one single solitary vote to spare. One member of Congress left his wife's deathbed to come down from New York to vote. One member of Congress fell down on the slippery steps of the Capitol and broke his arm, refused to let them set it because he was afraid they'd pass out and he wouldn't be able to vote. One member of Congress was carried into Congress on a stretcher from Walter Reed, where he had been for 6 weeks, in order to vote. And it took every single one of them, but it passed the House of Representatives. It, however, did not pass the Senate. But there was an election coming. And so both the Women's Party and NASA geared up and took on 4 senators who had opposed women's suffrage. They defeated 2 of them, and they cut the margin of victory of the other 2 dramatically. The result is that the women's suffrage movement passed the Senate for the first time. This is the headline from the Wyoming newspaper. You remember Wyoming is the first place that gave women the right to vote when the Senate ratified the suffrage amendment. Then it has to go to the states. Now, a bunch of states, including Pennsylvania, which had never passed women's suffrage, got busy and ratified. But it became evident pretty quickly that it was all going to come down to the state of Tennessee. If Tennessee ratified, women got the right to vote in the United States. Tennessee didn't ratify. Not going to get the right to vote. There was a young man named Harry Byrne. He had said he was against women's suffrage. He was expected to vote against it, but his mother sent him a letter saying, would he please vote for women's suffrage? He read the letter, he stood up, he changed his vote, and women's suffrage passed by one vote in the state of Tennessee, and that ratified the 19th Amendment, and women got the right to vote. To get the world mail, and in fact, this is from Carrie Chapman Catt, in effect, out of the Constitution, cost the women of the country 52 years of pauseless campaign. During that time, they were forced to conduct 56 campaigns of referenda to male voters, 480 campaigns to get legislatures to submit suffrage amendments to voters, 47 campaigns to get state constitutional conventions to write women's suffrage into state constitutions, 277 campaigns to get state party conventions to include women's suffrage planks, 30 campaigns to get presidential party conventions to adopt women's suffrage planks in party platforms, and 19 campaigns with 19 successive Congresses. It is an astounding effort where they were defeated and defeated and defeated and defeated, and they kept on going. And finally, they won. All right, questions? Janice, pass the microphone.
No, I'll give this to anybody who wants to ask a question.
Yes, and I'm to remind you to leave at 1 o'clock, which is in 3 minutes, but don't forget to sign up for the recycling. Pass it to another table if you can, so that we can get that organized. Okay? Questions? No questions?
Wait, yeah,
Okay, Louise.
Why hasn't that same, Mary, that was wonderful. Why hasn't that same kind of effort been mobilized to get the Equal Rights Amendment adopted?
Phyllis Shapley. I honestly don't know the answer to that. I don't think anybody expected the opposition that they got. Much of that, in retrospect, was ridiculous. There was a great deal of talk about bathrooms, for example. Also, it requires an understanding of why it's important. That's a legal issue, a burden of proof. And lots of people don't understand that if the Equal Rights Amendment passed, the burden of proof would shift, and it would be much easier for women to gain and appeal their rights. And that burden of proof argument, often people don't get. Now, Virginia did just ratify, but I don't know that's going to do it. Yes.
Do you have any examples of any
Right.
examples?
Yeah, use a mic, just because a lot of people on the other end can't hear.